Are you planning your next vacation? Head over to campmonk.com. We have tree houses, tents, and tiny homes at awesome locations all over India, designed to help you discover the outdoors. campmonk.com. Go check it out.
Hey guys, welcome to the Outdoors In podcast by Camp Monk. This is your host, Amit Shetty. These are a series of conversations with outdoorsy people living super interesting lives. We hope to inspire you to get out and explore the natural world around us. At the moment, the world is going through some unprecedented times with the COVID-19 lockdown. We hope you and your family are staying safe. Though this show's intent is to inspire you to explore the outdoors, we hope you'll stay home until it's safe for you to travel. Until then, enjoy the show. Our very first guest is someone who's inspired many, including myself. He's a full-time overlander, a motorcycling enthusiast, a content creator, and an all-round goofball. Over the past 4 years, he's ridden his Royal Enfield all over India. He's crisscrossed Europe. He's also done a 10,000 kilometer campervan trip and just back from an epic South America bike ride. He's been an entrepreneur, an ice cream seller, and even a bartender. He believes in living in the moment and enjoying this journey called life. We talk about coffee and Mysore Pak, bikes and campervans, the outside as well as the inside. It's my pleasure to introduce to you my dear friend Rohit Subramaniam, also known as the Misfit Magellan. Welcome, Rohit. Thanks for being on the first episode of the Outdoors In podcast.
Hey, thanks a lot, Amit. Thanks for inviting me. Big pleasure.
I really appreciate you being here. Today is, day 3 of the Corona lockdown. Actually, scratch that. I don't want to call it the Corona lockdown simply because I like Corona beer too much. Let's call it the COVID-19 lockdown. You're probably the epitome of being a traveler, always being on the road. How are you dealing with being locked down inside your house?
I was just telling my mom yesterday that I've been sitting in different campsites and just staring at different mountains around different parts of the world. So just sitting at home and reading a book would be the most difficult challenge because I'm forced to be indoors. But I think it's more about doing with the mind and how I deal with it psychologically, to be honest. So I'm keeping myself occupied. I have not been this productive in my life at all. I think I've been extremely productive in the past 3 days. I've been working out, I've been cooking, I've been watching a lot of shows that I've been intending to catch up on for a long time and reading a lot of books, sleeping on time and waking up on time. So I'm enjoying it to a big extent.
Nice. What kind of shows are you watching? I'd love to know what you like to watch.
We've been filing a whole motorcycle series, a lot of stuff. A friend of mine had put together, so I've been checking that out. And I've also sit and watch random movies of science fiction and stuff. So yeah, just different varied thing. I finished Peaky Blinders very recently, so I'm very proud of that.
Oh, that's an extremely well shot series, isn't it?
Peaky Blinders. Can I use the F word in this? No.
I think the eventuality is only you and me are going to be hearing this, so you might as well go all out.
Absolutely. No, but considering that this is going to last for a while, I'm pretty sure this might be a hit and some 1,000 people will watch it eventually at the end of it. People are running out of shows to watch. Yeah.
I want to kind of dive into a little bit of what you do and all of the travels that you've done. But before all of that, I'm sure there's a story of who inspired you to travel. Where did this fire kind of ignite from?
I don't think anyone external inspired me to travel, to be very honest. I used to consume a lot of travel content. I used to see a lot of Anthony Bourdain's show and everything. But that never gave me the urge to say, oh, I got to go here and actually do this. The philosophies were great, the ideologies were great, the travel was super fun, but I never aspired to be an Anthony Bourdain, to be honest. But the inspiration came from within. That's what I believe in, and it started because of boredom. I was doing a very mechanical lifestyle. I was having a startup in Bangalore. It's a crowdfunding platform, and I was running that, and my life had a very similar pattern of what I was doing from Monday to Friday and what I was doing on the weekends. This continued for a year and a half or two, and I felt the monotony of it got to me at some point, and I said, I want to experiment a bit and just get out and try doing something. I had no idea what it would turn out to be, but I just had a thought that I want to ride a motorcycle, and that's how the whole long-term travel began.
Wow, there's so much information there. I mean, let's start talk a little bit about your startup. What was the startup? What were you doing? Was it in Bangalore? Was it elsewhere?
It was in Bangalore. It was a crowdfunding platform. So we basically were creating a platform for musicians and filmmakers to get funded for their dream projects. And so that was pretty much it. And I was the CEO of it. I was the one who founded and CEO of it.
Nice. And so you started this, you found it a little monotonous. I mean, the startup world is an extremely fast-paced world. Did that kind of bore you? Did that irritate you? I mean, what's the angle with that?
I don't know. At 21, I couldn't process the fast-pacedness of the startup world, to be honest. I was trying to make sense of the whole deal, but I was like, it's okay. It was fine in terms of the pace, but the lifestyle kind of got to me. Like, I was sleeping at really odd hours. I was waking up extremely early and eating very unhealthy. And I didn't like that whole setup, to be honest, in terms of how I was treating myself. It's again nothing to do with the startup world. Now that I look at it, it was me who didn't have the discipline to be there, to be honest. So I took a decision to just step out. My co-founder was also my flatmate, and I told him that, hey, I want to quit and I want to give all the shares to you, and I want to move out and start riding. That's how it started.
That's really cool. So you just took off. So you got on a bike and just headed out on a trip that you hadn't planned, or was there some planning associated with it? How did that first journey kick off?
Okay, so we're talking about this 4 years of travel that I've been doing continuously. So 2015 October is when I quit the company. So November is like 1 month that I was still like being part of the company, handing over all my works to my fellow co-workers and everything. And December is when I seriously sat down and thought what I should do. So December 2015, I was sitting at my house and my bank balance was close to 15,000, maybe. That's it. And I didn't have a motorcycle. Like, I had an RX 135, which would not go beyond Bangalore borders at any given point. So I can never like really plan about like going around India or like anywhere, to be honest, with that bike. So I was sitting at home, and a friend of mine told that, dude, she was working for a publication, and she said, I can write an article about you. And I was like, okay, sure. And so she did an interview, and in an interview, basically, I was watching MotoGP and giving that interview. And she said, what's your dream? Like, how many countries do you want to go? So I was like, dude, like Valentino Rossi was there. I'm a big Rossi fan. I'm like, 46 countries. Okay. So the funny part is, she wrote this article in a way where she said, oh, this Indian who is not dreaming to go for 46 countries, but she's like, this Indian guy who is going to 46 countries. So like, we had no idea why she wrote that, but like, it just became super viral. I think it got 1 million hits or something. And I didn't have any social media account or anything also at that time. I just created an Instagram account and all of that. And a brand called me and said, we just saw your article, why don't you come and pitch to us? I'm like, okay, sure. So I went to the office. There were 4 or 5 people sitting there, and I pitched to them, and they're like, sure, man, this sounds very interesting. You want to go around India for like 8 months. We would like to put some money and promote our apparels on your travels. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Let me do that. And that basically was the start. Then I called a beard oil company and said, hey, hi, I have a beard and I'm planning to ride around India for like 8 months. Do you want to put money in it? They were like, that's the weirdest call that we have got in our life, but sure, why not? And then they came on board. So I was like, oh, this is very easy. I can do this. So I called 3 other brands and it all worked out. and I booked the Royal Enfield, which got delivered on January 2016, 3rd of January 2016, and I kickstarted the ride on 15th of January 2016. So it's been 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting kickoff. One is you were coerced into the ride with your 46 country story, and then the sponsors kind of just jumped in and gave you the freedom to travel. I mean, that's a brilliant way to get things kicked off.
Absolutely. I was lucky. I was very lucky, to be very honest. I mean, as much as people say, like, I've worked hard and all, like, this portion of it was extremely coincidental. I cannot take any major credits for any of this that has happened. So an accident that just turned out to be like, oh, sure, why not? I just took the choice of saying that I'm going to throw an open house and give away everything that I have and get my worldly possession into a backpack so that I can just leave whenever the time comes. So I was just ready for that. That's it.
Wow. So what is the transition like? I mean, for a lot of people, and I've considered doing it myself, getting on the road and giving up all your worldly possessions, carrying what you can. My dream is to, get up perhaps a winger or a tempo traveler modified, make it a caravan, and then just head on the road. But the dream, although I'm working towards it, the worldly possessions, the startup business that I'm involved in, friends, family, Bangalore, tends to keep holding you back, and that dream keeps, being pushed. How did you kind of, navigate that process and transition over to chucking everything into a backpack, getting rid of the other stuff, and then just heading out?
To be honest, at 21, I didn't have so much of a worldly person to think about all of this. Everything that I had technically would fit into a backpack anyway. So, but I mean, on a serious note, so I was 18 years old when I first went on my backpacking trip from Bangalore. I was doing my college in Bangalore. From here, I took a train to Delhi, and then from there, I had a month vacation. So I went all the way to Shimla. Okay. Because why Shimla? Because Shimla was the stereotypical place every old Tamil actor used to go and dance around the snow. So I wanted to see snow because born and brought up in Chennai, I never saw snow in my life. And I went to Shimla and I was super disappointed because there was no snow. So then someone said there's this amazing place called Leh Ladakh and I should go there. So I was like, cool, I'll take a bus and go there. So that journey in Leh for a month in 2011 changed my life very drastically. And once I came back from that trip, I never did any travel at all per se for the next 5 years. So the whole travel, like the whole thing of me not traveling and the love for travel kind of got into me so much that I was like, I have to step out at some point. And that was the whole idea also. I didn't want to do short-term travels to basically keep myself satisfied. I was like, let me wait it out so that at one day if I leave, I'll leave for a long time. So that was definitely the urge to actually put everything else behind. And friends and family were very, very adaptive to it. And they were the ones who were also pushing me further. They were like, they've had enough of your bullshit, just get out for a while. So yeah, so it worked out good.
I hear your parents were a big driving force, no pun intended, towards you traveling and the freedom to explore. I hear your mom is a legend. Can you tell us a little bit about how your upbringing was and how that support helped you to do what you're doing?
Oh man, yeah. So they both always get the limelight whenever I tell the story, but the credit goes to them for putting me out here and stepping out. So the upbringing was very funny because I always say that my parents performed a social experiment on me while I was growing up, and somehow it turned right in my opinion. So basically, as a kid, we had 3 rules at home, and this is related to studies and exams and stuff. So the first rule was whenever I get 0 in an exam, I get whatever I want in life, because my mom believed it's very difficult to get 0 in an exam. So I got my first motorcycle because I failed in my 12th pre-board mathematics. So my mom was like, oh, sure, I can get you a motorcycle for that. I went and asked her, I got 0. So what do I get? She's like, what do you want? I'm like, oh, I need a motorcycle. She's like, oh, sure, okay. That's how I got the RX 135. And the second rule was, whenever I fail in a subject, I get taken out to the best restaurant in town, whichever I call for, because she says failure is inevitable. And we should start embracing it and start enjoying it and celebrating it rather than actually like sitting and crying about it or like worrying about it. So that was rule number 2. Rule number 3 was my dad, who said I should get only 40% in exam, because school is a time where I have to like spend a lot of time in other extracurricular activities and building character and, you know, making friends and all of that. So anytime I get more than the passing percentage, I was always like being bullied a lot at home. So yeah, so these are the 3 rules.
That's a pretty awesome upbringing. I'm surprised that you didn't actually make an effort to get below 40 every single time.
No, like I think it's reverse psychology that worked, because I really wanted to like study hard and all of that. But then like I studied whatever I needed. Like I just picked the stuff that I would need for the exam and for myself. And I was like, okay, cool, this is interesting, so I'll take this. And I went to the exam. And the other funny part is I never realized at that time, like I was not competing with anyone at that point, because everyone else was trying to be the first rank in the class. And I was the only kid who was like, I want to be the last rank in the class and I'll be happy about it, you know? So it just worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was happy that I was passing in all the exams every now and then, and yeah, getting whatever I wanted.
You know, what is interesting is, I mean, a lot of people even today are so, struck by peer pressure, right? Everybody wants to do things, society, friends, family, and all of that stuff. It seems like very early on, your parents have kind of imbibed an ability in you or a skill in you to do things for yourself and not for somebody else. I think that is a really interesting takeaway from me from that story.
Absolutely. I mean, I never had to like as I said, like I never had to compete with anyone, and there was no peer pressure in whatsoever way. So I was just living life for myself in terms of doing things basically. And if I have to just go by it. And it was very simple back in the day, and I just followed it all along, I think.
I read somewhere that you've crossed the 46 countries a long time ago.
I have stopped keeping track of the number of countries. But yeah, I think I've done. Yeah, definitely I've done.
I can imagine. So you did 3 or 4 really long trips. Can you tell us what those trips are? I think the first one was around India.
So the first one was around India for 8 months. So I started off from Chennai, because my dad is like, if you're going to kick off your motorcycle and get out, it has to be from Chennai. So I was like, cool. So I started from Chennai, and then I rode around the Western Ghats, the West Coast, and then went all the way towards the north, and then came via the east. And while coming back, I covered the east and the central and came back to India. So this was like 8 months of just random riding and no plans per se. I just had 2 self-imposed rules that I kept to myself, which I really wanted to do in my life. So one was I chose not to stay in hotels or hostels, because I always believed that if you ever, at that time, hostels was also not a big concept. So hotels was the first option. I always believed that if I ever went to a hotel and shut the room door, the outer world is kind of shut. I don't know what the city is all about. I don't know what different emotions are all about. So I put a rule to myself saying that, I should either stay in people who are going to host me, that can be friends or mutual friends or acquaintances or people who follow me on social media and stuff, or random strangers who I meet along the way who just offer me to like host me for a night or 2. Or I'll stay in a tent, but I didn't have a tent at that time. I had a very small tent, which I never used it in the trip. Or I'll stay in a petrol pump, police station, bus stop, railway station, and that's how it started. The second rule was I really wanted to basically do one new job in each state that I went to. So I was a chai wala, I was a vada pav wala, I was an ice cream seller, I was a guy who was putting newspapers in different houses, I was mechanic, I was a cleaner in a truck, in a lorry driver's truck, basically.
Wow. Seems like you're a master of all trades.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades and a master of travel.
Master of none also, still yet. But I mean, as a child, I always was very fascinated about this ice cream seller and all of these people, right? Because if you give me 10 ice creams in front of me, if you keep it in front of me and tell me to like travel with that for like a whole day, I wouldn't sell it. I would eat all of that ice cream by myself. So I was very curious of how this guy could not eat. And I went to a sweet shop and worked in a sweet shop. You know my story about like my sweet tooth, right? So yeah, so I was in a sweet shop and working there for 2 days, and I was trying to like not eat the sweets, but it was very difficult. Like I was like, how can these guys do it? So that was the reason why I went and did new jobs in each state that I went to.
So for those who don't know Rohit personally, every one of his friends know that Rohit has a massive sweet tooth. We once went out camping. This
Big
was
Rock.
at Big
Yeah.
Rock, right? We were doing the ride, yeah. Rohit, before everyone had breakfast, he finished like 1 kilo of Mysore Pak alone. And I've never seen anyone eat that much copious amount of sugar ever in my life.
Yep.
So Rohit, to me, is a synonym for Mysore Pak ever since.
Yeah, and Amit was supposed to send me Mysore Pak all the way to South America, and he kept eating the ones that he got for me, and Tina had to call and complain to me saying that, dude, tell him to stop eating Mysore Pak.
Eventually, one day, once this Corona COVID-19 lockdown is over, I promise to get you an entire
And we
kilo
can
of
share
Mysore
it.
Pak
Like,
this
yeah,
week.
that's our way of celebrating being outdoors again. Yeah.
Lovely. With that story of that coffee, I know you have a deep symbiotic relationship with coffee. Can you tell us a little bit about how that started?
There's this famous story of how my mom and dad got married. So they both were in the same neighborhood, and my dad went to my mom's house for one day, and my mom made coffee, and my dad drank the coffee and said, if I ever want to drink one coffee for the rest of my life, that would be this coffee. And that's how they got married. So
Wow.
I mean, I drink close to 8 coffees a day, but my parents drink like 10 coffees a day. So I'm still catching up with them in the coffee count. But my mom is super cool because she sends me coffee around the world, wherever I am. I'm a huge advocate and a fan of filter coffee. So the South Indian filter coffee is something that I really need wherever I am. And mom makes sure that it reaches me in Patagonia or in Norway if I'm there.
Wow. So what's the brand of the coffee? Is it like a local blend or is it some commercial mix?
So
that's
from
available?
1994, when I was born till today, my family has been getting coffee from this one coffee called Devika Coffee, which is in our area. And it's a normal blend. There's nothing major to it. But I think my mom kind of like goes every time, makes sure that it's all right. And it's 80-20. So 20% chicory and the rest is coffee. So yeah, there's no like major mix to it. But there's something about this guy's coffee which I really like. Yeah.
Nice. So when you're traveling, so you said you enjoy it in the filter coffee way, right? But when you're on the bike and you're doing these long journeys, do you carry a percolator, a decanter? How do you
So I
cook your
have
coffee?
a French press, I have an AeroPress, I have a percolator, and I have a filter coffee machine with me all the time in my shoulder bag that I'm wearing with me. So, which also consists of like a water purifier and like 3 liters of water and a coffee powder. That's all that bag has apart from my passport. So this is the utmost essentials that's always with me. So
You sound like you're carrying a coffee day around with you.
Yeah, that's pretty much, man. I mean, it's very difficult for me to like live without coffee, and it's a morning ritual whenever I camp, especially, and wherever I am. To be honest, I have to wake up and like make my coffee, and that is my meditative zone to begin with. You know, so brewing the first cup of coffee, sipping it, looking around, chilling, and then like the day kicks off. So it's been that for a long time now. So yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm a big coffee lover myself. I get my coffee from the small. If you travel to Sakleshpur from Bangalore, just before you enter Sakleshpur, on the right hand side you will see this place called Osur, and they've got this really interesting blend. I don't know what it is. I just bought it once for a friend, and I fell in love with it. So I practically don't drink anything else but the coffee from there. Recently, someone gifted me a kind of a mix of coffee from Blue Turquoise. It's a company in Bangalore, and some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Super expensive for my taste at least, but the flavors of the coffee was really amazing.
I
You should try
have
that
tried
out.
quite a few Blue Tokai, and like I'm up for experimenting a lot. So I keep mixing and matching a lot of coffees. I think the best coffee that I've had in Bangalore is in Coffee Mechanics. It's this one tiny little coffee shop not a lot of people know about. It's close to Manyata Tech Park side, basically, like close to Kamnali side. So yeah, that's one of the really cool coffee shops I've been in a long time. Coffee Mechanics.
Coffee Mechanics.
Yeah.
That's the next place. Is it like a garage / coffee, or is it
just a hipster name?
Just a hipster name. Okay, great. So, I mean, what I love, Rohit, is this: your first long journey was around India, right? I always believe a lot of people, jump ship, travel all across the world and not even explored their own country. India is such a beautiful place. I keep, kidding that India is a continent.
Absolutely.
It's not a country, right? We are like amalgamation of so many different. You leave one state and you go to the other. Language changes, the way people look change. The terrain changes. There's so much to see. There's so much to learn in beautiful country itself. And not a lot of people have spent time and energy traveling around here. I guess the first thing people want to do is go to Bangkok or go to Australia and these other beautiful places. Of course, you should visit all the beautiful places across the world. But I think being an Indian, I love that your journey started with seeing all of India.
Hey, that was the whole idea. I mean, I want to explore my own backyard before I actually step out. And that was a thought also. Like if I went out, like say to Australia or anywhere, and if someone asked me the question saying, oh, so tell me about India. And if I'm like, oh, I have no clue. I've not been around much in India. Like that would be a very, very bad answer to give, in my opinion. So I always thought that I should explore my own country first. And it's big. It's not like very small, like, right? And born and brought up in Tamil Nadu, like my Hindi was also like not that great at that time. So going up north, like I had to pick up the language and I have to like keep talking to people, and it just worked out great, man. I loved it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So this was your first
first official
right?
trip across 4 years, but the first technical trip was 2011 when I went to Himalayas. And one funny story in that trip was I never ridden an Enfield in my life till I went to that trip. And that was I was in the Leh town, and I met a guy who basically had a mechanic shop / bike rental shop. He was a great mechanic, but he was very bad at renting out the bikes basically. So I told him, like, listen, can I stay at your place and like you can give me food like 2 meals, and I'll try helping you out and like selling these bikes out. He had 10 bikes basically. He was like, yeah, man, sure, you can sleep in the office and yeah, I can give you food. So I was working with him for 5 days, and in that 5 days, I managed to rent out all his bikes for the next 30 days. So what happened there was he was super happy because he's never seen so much money at the same time in a long time. So he was like, he got his Enfield and gave it a full tank of fuel and gave me 4,000 rupees in cash and told me to just ride, and said, don't come back till you feel like not coming back. So I still remember getting out of the Leh town and taking the first corner, like the first hairpin bend, and I fall. And I still remember that fall very clearly, right? It is the slowest fall in my head. Like it happened in a fraction of a second, but I can go for like an hour about that fall in detail. And I didn't know how to lift the bike. So I struggled for the next 1 hour trying to lift the bike. I was putting in neutral and trying to lift the bike, and the bike just ran down further and fell again and all of that. But I was like, if I want to do something in my life and keep falling, I would really like to ride a motorcycle and keep falling. Like, this is it. This is all I want to do. And that's when that idea of saying that I want to explore in a motorcycle came in. If I ever get a chance at some point in my life, I want to go around and stuff. That's how I want it to be. So I was never, I felt more connected with motorcycle. Like you and me had this conversation once where you told me this saying, I still borrow that line from you all the time, saying that it's 50-50. The man and the machine have to work together for you to keep moving. None of the other mode of transport exactly has that equation. And it's you're one with the nature. Like, the wind is hitting you, the rain affects you, if there is anything that's happening outside, if it's sunny, it does affect you. If it's raining, it does affect you, and in being Patagonia and coming back, the wind affects you like crazy. So all of this played a huge role. So I was like, sure, this sounds like great fun. And that's how it started.
When you're on a bike, I guess the biggest difference between a bike and any other mode of transport is that you've got to keep it moving and you've got to balance it out, right? That's really where that connection is built. If you're on a car, I mean, there is a beauty of driving fast cars and off-road vehicles and all of those things. But the vehicle stands by itself. You don't really have to do much, right? when you're riding a bike, that's really where you feel that 50-50 is really where it is, right?
Yeah.
Half man, half machine over there. So, I mean, riding a bike is possibly the most meditative, focusing kind of experience and that's why biking is so popular. The premise of this podcast and, what we want to be able to tell stories around is how getting out is really about getting in, right? How it's a meditative experience, whether it's riding or being in the outdoors or just spending time in nature and not necessarily doing anything. You could be going for a hike or you just could be sitting around and watching the stream flow by. But that stop and stare, that moment of not having the craziness of the world swirling around your head, for me was a very liberating experience when I went out camping for the first time. For me, it was a transformatory experience, and that's how Camp Monk was, created with Shashi and me. How was it for you? I mean, when you started riding your first fall, and then what is that? Does it have a meditative process for you?
For me, that's one of the things, right? As much as people say that it's a journey outwards, for me, it's more of a journey inwards. Every passing kilometer, I get to spend time with myself and go deeper and deeper to understand who I really am. And it's a constant process of learning and unlearning in the same road, basically. So for me, it's always been something very interesting because I live a very interesting life where 7 hours of a day I spend just introspecting and talking to myself and looking inside, So in this 7 hours, if you take 2 hours of me sitting and talking to myself about random stuff around the world, that I still have 5 hours. In that 5 hours, I sit and sing songs to myself for 2 hours. I still have 3 hours. In this 3 hours, I won't have the energy to talk. I won't have the energy to basically sing song or get distracted anyway. I don't listen to music when I'm riding. So this 3 hours is usually the time when I actually introspect and go deeper into who I am. The world kind of takes a stop, in my opinion, that's happening around me. And I am in a state of meditation because I can't close my eyes. My eyes are open. I'm focused, but I'm looking deeper and deeper into who I am. So yeah, that's been interesting and amazing over the years. And a lot of my friends make joke about saying that how I'm going to grow my beard a little more longer. And when I finish all these rides, they're going to start this motorcycle meditation center and tell people, and I'm going to teach them how to basically meditate on a motorcycle, and my friends are going to make money out of it. Yeah.
That's a super business plan. Just introduce me to your friends. I'd like to pitch into that as well.
Yeah.
Are you ready for a social distancing vacation? Head on over to campmonk.com. We've got tree houses, tents and tiny homes tucked away in farms and the wilderness. campmonk.com. Go check it out.
So, we've been talking about really about solo travel until now, right? So to tell the listeners, so when I met Rohit and Ankita were kicking off the Caravan Chronicles. And so the first time I actually met you was at the garage.
That was in Hennur.
That was in Hennur, right?
Yeah.
Where was that garage? Yeah, so I walked in over there and I saw this. I have this crazy love for vans and the Matador van, because that was the quintessential camper van in India, at least in the early 90s. I've probably been driven around in a Matador more than I have any other vehicle, simply because it was my school bus. I had this really cool van driver. His name was Val, short for Valentine. He was an uber cool guy, Anglo-Indian chap, 6'6" tall, curly hair. He was a rock star. He used to wear leather pants, and a lot of my love for music also started by going in that van. So he used to have these Matka speakers that were placed, under the seats, and he'll have this, a bunch of school kids inside, and he used to play some, CCR and some Pink Floyd and some really good music. So I have some great memories of the Matador van. So going back to when I saw the Matador van that you guys had picked up for your trip, and I was completely enamored by it. And then I met Rohit and William and Ankita. First, I was very enamored by the fact that you guys were doing something so interesting. Then I sat in the van and I decided to take it for a small round, but I stopped 15 feet from where I started because the brakes weren't working. And I was secretly telling myself that I don't think these guys are going to get to more than 50 kilometers on this van because it is a completely dilapidated, at least mechanically, right? And I think to a large extent, I kept in touch with you guys just to make sure you guys were alive. So that was a very interesting meeting. But so tell me a little bit about your journey with fellow travelers until now. Until then, at least you were traveling alone. How was that experience for you?
I was in Austria, and I stayed at a friend's place in Austria, in a very small village, basically. So I met this guy and his girlfriend in Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia. So we kept in touch and we kept bumping into each other in all these 3 countries. And they were like, dude, you got to come to our place and stay at some time when you come to Europe. I was like, yeah, sure. So when I went to Europe, I went to their house and they had a wall which had 5 names in it. And they basically put a tick next to my name. So I was like, what is this 5 names? So they said that this 5 people who are the ones who we met in our travels and inspired us to travel more. So this room is always for them. And it's like a room for them whenever they come to Austria. These 5 people can stay here. So that day I sat in the balcony and wondered, what if these guys come to India? Do they have a place to stay, which I can offer? And obviously I can take them to my parents' house, but it's parents' house. It's not something that would be more exclusive for these guys. So I realized that I should build a home for myself in the next 1 year when I come back to India. So my idea of a home was something that I should wake up for different sunrise and sleep to different sunsets. And it should be portable. It should be something that can move around. And Europe was something that was offering that a lot. And I kept seeing a lot of that. And for some reason, I called Ankita. I've met Ankita only once before I called her for this trip. And I said, hey, I think I have an idea of building a campervan and traveling across India. Would you be in? And she was in South America at that time. And she said, oh man, absolutely. I would love to be a part of it and then travel with you in that. And we both came back to India in December. And we built it and we left in February. And we traveled across from Bangalore all the way till Manali. So we came to Manali. Just before Manali, we turned around and came back to Chennai. It was a very different experience, to be honest, because a campervan is a constrained space. So you don't have too much of privacy per se if you're going to sleep around in the van and just hang around with the same set of people all the time. But I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. It is a refreshing scheme of things for me because ever before that it was always motorcycling and just me riding around alone by myself. And suddenly there's someone else and Anki and I became family after that trip, right? So even now the first person I call if something goes right or wrong is Anki, and it's vice versa for us. It's a really interesting experience, and I would really do it again sometime soon.
Nice. So this trip, Camp Monk,
Yes.
Worked with you guys and partnered up as the camping partners. So you visited a few campsites. Which one did you like the best? In that journey, you went to the Western Ghats and visited some of our campsites. I remember
quite a few, dude. Technically, we camped a lot in this trip. I said, apart from sleeping in the caravan, and also the orange matador was eye catchy. If we just park it somewhere by the road and just sleep, we have had people just peeping through the window and looking inside when we both are sleeping inside that. So it is always safe to have a campsite where we can go and park and camp. I remember one in Munnar, which was I forget the name, but that was one of the which one? Camp on the Clouds. Yes,
Camp on the Clouds.
That's the one. That is one. And what is that Praveen's property in the one which had the infinity pool? The Jungle Edge, which is also
the Jungle Edge.
So these would be my top 2 picks. The Camp on the Cloud was insane because when you wake up, it's just you have a cloud that's just in front of you, and it just looks like you're just going to walk through that. And Jungle Edge because of the infinity pool, and it had a lot of other cool things to do around that place. So both of those properties are one of my favorites. I mean, both are my favorites as well.
the camp on the clouds, simply because, as the name clearly indicates, the clouds are below you, and especially when you wake up in the morning and see, and those clouds kind of last there for a while. It's not like it's really early in the morning. It goes down to even 9:30, 10 o'clock, and you're still above the cloud.
The whole journey was like, at that time, like at least the south part of it, we basically made sure that we touch as many campsites as we can, so that way we can also chill and like, you know, cook and like spend more time in just different campsites. And dude, like we spent 90 days in the trip, and in that the first major portion of the trip was still Karnataka before we entered Maharashtra. Actually, Goa. Like Goa was like the first stretch of the trip, and that took us like close to 50 days to finish that, from Bangalore to Goa. So we went through Kerala, we went through parts of Karnataka, and then parts of Maharashtra, and like parts of Goa, and then till Maharashtra, till Bombay. I think we spent a lot of time just camping, and like Kampong was so well connected during that whole stretch. It was like amazing, man.
Nice. How did you guys manage? So that was just the onset of summer, right? So I think as long as you were in the Western Ghats, you were still okay because you're on elevation. The weather is generally much cooler there. But what was it like once you hit Maharashtra, left the side of the mountains, and then went up north?
We had two fans, and the fan was blowing hotter air because of the humidity outside and like the heat outside. The best part was, I mean, it's also like a crazy experience in a way, where I found my next travel buddy through like who could put through this, right? So we were in Rajasthan, and basically it was like peak summer, like 48, 49 degrees. And Matador heats up, so you got to like cool the radiator and all of that all the time and everything. And we were in Jodhpur, and that's when I called Sukesh and told him to come and shoot a small 5 minutes video for us, for Anki and I, and Caravan Chronicles at that time. And Sukesh actually like came for 5 days, and was a very, very adaptive and accommodative traveler who spent 5 days with us and shot. So I was like, dude, like this guy can handle this. He can definitely take South America with me for sure. And that's how like Sukesh and I planned South America from there.
Yeah, Sukesh is a really cool guy. I'm going to link the video that you guys shot for the Caravan Chronicles under the post as well. So this journey was, probably one of the first few campervan journeys, or at least documented campervan journeys in India. What do you see as the future of travel in a campervan or a caravan in India?
After Caravan Chronicles happened, after season 1 of Caravan Chronicles has happened, I've seen close to like 5-6 other people that I know have built one, have been traveling around and everything. Someone documented the journey also in their own way. And there are a few startups that's like trying to come into the same space. So I definitely see a big market and potential, because India has a lot of outdoors, and campervaning gives you also an option of traveling with friends or with family, and just go and camp and spend quality time together. So I see a great future. I see a big market and potential, and a lot of people are going to come up here and start campervanning across the country in the next 5 years.
That's awesome. So one of the pieces that we are also trying to solve at Camp Monk is about creating spaces for these vehicles to go to. It's a two-sided problem. There's not enough campsites for campervans to go to, which is the problem that we are solving. And on the other hand, you don't have enough campervans you can rent. It's not economically feasible for someone to buy a second recreational vehicle and do it up and spend 15-20 lakhs on doing it. So it's great that a few startups have created that ecosystem where you can actually rent these vehicles, and on the other hand, Camp Monk provides campsites for people to go to. So I'm really looking forward to the advent of campervans in India. I hope to participate in it. I hope to build my own campervan in India as well. Which vehicles do you think kind of fit the bill?
I would love to have an Omni again, to like very fundamental, easy build, and like a easy on the pocket also basically. But unfortunately, Omni is not there. Isuzu D-Max is something that I would love to build something on that. And Tempo Traveler, man. you can do wonders with that van. It's big, it's spacious, it can just solve every problem regarding the camper vanning space. So yeah.
Totally. Have you seen the new Winger? The Winger has been updated in terms of, at least it was released in the Auto Expo 2020 with a completely new facelift.
It's coming out in 2021, I think, or 2020 mid. So that would be like a really cool thing to like drive around and experiment it and see like how we feel. But I'm very optimistic about the new Winger.
Yeah, so what I like about it is it's not only great looking on the outside, but they've also upgraded the inside of the vehicle to be more of a car-like feel and more comfortable versus being a commercial vehicle. That I think is going to propagate a lot of interest for people like us who want to be able to own such a vehicle. So kudos to the Tata team.
All we need is like a first player to come out and actually do this out there. And once that's there, there's going to be a lot of takers, and this market is going to be flooded in the next 10-15 years basically in India, provided like there's someone who starts and like it goes in the right direction. Because like companies like Campmonk has a lot of campsites that's come out which was not there 6-7 years ago, right? So there's an ecosystem of campsites, and now there are a lot of travelers who are also coming to these campsites, and travel as a culture has evolved in India over the years. So like all the puzzles is getting solved, and the camper van scene would eventually kick out very soon, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we are also living right now in very interesting, unprecedented times. So social distancing, being aware of your surroundings, especially in terms of sanitization, etc., is really important. Do you feel that the future of travel is kind of changing right now? Because earlier it was hey, let's head out. We can go stay in a homestay / hotel / 5-star hotel. Now there are, you think of it a little differently. There are so many touch points in these places. Have they been sanitized? And perhaps getting outdoors is possibly the safest and yet most fulfilling.
Oh, completely. Very interesting times that we're living in, where people are actually looking to step out and not chill. They want to step out and like learn something. Like I remember like a few of my friends who would never step out and like just sit and drink beer the whole day are now saying, oh, I want to learn surfing. And they go to like a campsite and stay in a tent and then go out and surf. So travel has become more that, and what better way to start than being outdoors.
That's the real goal of what we are trying to do. We are trying to get more people connected.
Absolutely, man.
To
and
what's
I still remember
real
this one conversation that you and me were having in one of the campsites. Like we were sitting by the bonfire, and you said, imagine a kid coming out and actually looking at the sky from here, where there was like a lot of stars that night. And you said like that would change the kid for life, and like that stuck with me a lot of times, because I think as a kid, if I ever went camping, I would have been more outdoors. Like I wouldn't have taken 21 years to 24 is when I started camping, technically, like for a long time. So I wouldn't have wasted that long. I would have spent my early teens or late teens just camping by myself and like exploring more of the outdoors. So it's a great opportunity to like actually sit down and just look at the stars, man. It definitely changes your life.
Well, you're luckier than me. I went camping for the first time when I was 33 years old. So I lost 33 years later than most that I would have liked it, at least. But I mean, it was a transformative experience, and just like you, it changed how I perceive life and what I want to do with the rest of mine. So I think the outdoors is really designed for everyone. We kind of need to get more and more people to be able to access it. So on that note, tell me a little bit about your recent trip. You did a Patagonia trip along with Sukesh. Tell us how that went and how you prepared for it.
Man.
And what all the fun stuff you did during that trip.
I'm the most unprepared traveler ever. So it's always funny to like, whenever I have to like travel with someone, it's very interesting how the other person actually like has to adapt to me and my style of traveling. And like credits to Sukesh, like this guy has been an absolute legend to travel with me for 5 months, basically, in South America. So the initial idea was when we finished this Caravan Chronicles shoot, me and Sukesh were discussing about riding in South America for like 5 months. And in the next few months, as we are on the process of getting to it, we basically, what happened was I want to do this for a year and a half or two. And Sukesh still said I want to do it for 5 months. So the idea was to go together for 5 months and shoot a documentary or shoot whatever we feel like shooting of human stories and come back. And the preparation for this was very simple. Sukesh in a production house and he had to quit. So he did. And I was not doing anything. I was still sitting in the same place as I'm sitting and talking to you. And we were waiting for a brand to come and put money, and we were supposed to leave. And funny enough, nobody gave us the money to basically go for this trip. And the whole world, we have told that we're leaving. So everyone keeps calling and asking, oh, you're still here. So we got fried one day and I said, I have my credit card and I'll book a ticket for us to New York. And we have Suresh, a very good friend of ours and like a mentor for me, and his house in New York. So we'll go and stay there and start working in brands and all. If nothing works out, either one of us will take an injury and come back to India saying, oh, Sukesh broke his hand or Rohit broke his leg, and we'll come back. So literally, this is how the trip started. And our flight was on Monday evening, 5 o'clock. And we booked the tickets on Sunday morning. So Sukesh had to come literally on Sunday without packing or anything. And I had really one small tiny bag to step out for the trip. And we went to New York. Somehow few brands worked out. We got some money. Then Sukesh and I flew to Colombia. So that's where we bought the bike. And from Colombia, we rode from Colombia, all of Colombia for 2 months. Then we went to Ecuador, spent a month and a half, and then went to Peru and spent close to 2 months there. And it was one of the most amazing and life-changing journeys for me, the first 5 months with Sukesh, because I've never ridden with someone. When I was driving the campervan, Anki used to sit with me and we used to sit and talk, and it was not like two of us are in two different vehicles. But when we were doing the road trip in South America, it was very different because I was never used to catching up with someone or someone catching up with me. Sukesh never caught up with me. I always caught up with Sukesh. So, but yeah, it was very different. We are two different people. I was a guy who was born in a coastal town. He was born in a mountain town. So we're very different in terms of the way we started our lives, and our interest in life also changed because he is a deep sea diver. He's a dive instructor and he's an underwater filmmaker. And I love hiking and I love mountains and stuff. So it's completely different. I eat 1 meal a day and this fellow eats he has to eat 3 meals a day. So yeah, so Sukesh left and then I started riding down to Bolivia, and then I went to Chile and Argentina, and I spent 120 days in Patagonia just camping. So it was very, very unique in terms of the whole experience. And we met a lot of interesting people on the trip. And our documentary is coming soon. It's in the post-production. If my editor is listening to this, I'm pretty sure he'll have time to listen to this also. We are waiting for the final cut. So I'm just waiting for the final edits and final touches. So May 1st week, I would say it's coming out on an OTT platform. I can't reveal the name of the OTT platform, but it's going to be out somewhere there.
What bikes were you riding? What was your experience with the bikes? Would you have changed something on the bike? Tell us a little bit. I know you're a gearhead, and I know you love bikes.
So we both rode Yamahas 250 cc's. I rode a Yamaha XTZ.
Did you use any apps to navigate your way through South America?
So iOverlander is a cool app where overlanders can basically find campsites and gas stations and where to eat good food and everything, and it's all crowdsourced. So it's one of the coolest app, and it was my go-to app. I think most used app in my 1.5 years in South America.
On the note of traveling, and you talked about adaptation to each situation that you're in. One of the things that piqued my interest is the ability to have to live your life in a most minimalistic kind of way, right? And camping kind of taught me that, because when we live in the city, we live with so many luxuries, and Swiggy is there at your beck and call, and you don't really have to do anything. You can live your life sitting behind a computer and not really getting up unless to go to the pot. So did minimalism come naturally to you, or was it something that you practiced because of your trips?
most of my friends who've traveled with me would know that I would have this one iconic t-shirt that I pretty much wore for an entire trip of like 6 months or 7 months, and I used to have 2 other t-shirts to change around and stuff. But minimalism is something that, I don't know, it came very naturally, I think, because parents are extremely minimalist, even when I was growing up and even today. So nothing has changed in the setup that they're living in and the things that they use and everything. So I think I got it from them. But I also realized, like, because of motorcycling, maybe if I was doing a campervan trip from day one till today, I would have had a lot more stuff than what I have right now. But a motorcycle, I had to carry a very limited amount of stuff to fit into my backpack and balance the bike out, right? So only the absolute necessities is all that I could carry. So my luggage would never exceed more than 15 kilos in total. So that's how I keep it, and that's all I would need for a trip. And whenever I take a flight to go to a city, and when I come back, I would basically so if I take a flight, I don't do check-in luggage. I basically wear all my riding gears and just take the flight and get out with the hand luggage.
So on that note, Rohit, what's next? What's around the corner for you? What are you looking at?
COVID-19 came, and here we are sitting in, quarantined ourselves. So I can't really see anything beyond the next few months. I mean, the initial plan was to leave to Canada in in US to May, and then start riding to Alaska and coming down to Panama for the rest of the year. But I don't think that's happening in the near future. So I'm going to wait it out. I haven't planned anything, to be very honest. I want to see how the situation is, how all of this is being handled, and how are we getting out of this, to be honest. And then jump into making plans and stuff. So at least for the next 3 months, there is nothing major. But there's a big lifestyle change that's going to come up in terms of what I've been doing for a living in the past few months. That might change. I'm not giving it away yet, because it would happen eventually in the next few months. So I'm excited to see that and how I cope up with that. So let's see.
Well, all the very best. Where do all of your followers, keep in touch with you? What's your social handles? How do we keep abreast of your journeys that are upcoming?
I think I'm mostly active on Instagram and not on other platforms that much. So yeah, it's Misfit Magellan. It's MISFIT MAGELLAN is the handle.
Nice. So, Rohit, firstly, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is something I always wanted to kind of create a podcast and, basically have conversations with really inspiring people like yourselves. The COVID-19 lockdown has kind of shut the travel industry, at least for the next 2 or 3 weeks. And we saw this as an opportunity to kind of, kick this off and build this podcast. We hope to have some of the people that you've already spoken about during the show, like Jerry and a couple of others. We'd love to get on the show and tell their stories as well. So a big thank you for being a part of this.
We've been discussing about this idea of sitting and recording a podcast for a very long time, and here we are, done with the first episode. I'm very happy that we actually got around the time and got to this. So big shout out, and big ups to all the people who are going to follow up in the podcast. I know most of them, so very excited to listen to their stories and their lives too. And shout out to all the fellow travelers and everyone who's at home listening to this. You have made it till the end, so we really appreciate the hard work that you put in of listening to this 1 hour 20 minutes or whatever the number is of this podcast. So big shout out to everyone.
Thank you guys for listening to our show today. We hope you enjoyed it. Our next few episodes will feature an army captain who's overlanding India in a truck, a family of explorers living on the wild side in the forests of Sakleshpur, and a Guinness World Record holder. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss it. If you're planning your next vacation, do look us up at campmonk.com. We have tree houses, tents, and tiny homes at awesome locations all over India.